All right, so it looks like this administration is finally going to start cracking down on businesses and employers who are employing illegal immigrants. So let's see what they're talking about, and we'll react to it.
So let's talk about illegal immigration. We know the numbers at the border are astronomically down. We know that the number of Border Patrol now outnumber the number of illegal border crossers. So the big focus on ICE, and they're going to start in Los Angeles this weekend for the first time. They're
Crazy going into LA because the opposition there to this administration is very large, and I guarantee you they're going to have a hard time getting those people out of there.
telegraphing, but I think they know what they're doing, is to get illegal criminals out. The question is now, when it comes to businesses, how do you clamp down on them to get more Americans in the job market? And that's one message was E-Verify. The other is individual states and cities coming down with some type of penalties should you knowingly hire an illegal immigrant.
Exactly. These businesses know that they can hire these people in those states for really bad wages. And sometimes they actually hire people for the same wage while undercutting the American people who live in those areas.
So this is what Montana is
Montana is warning
Montana's
business
a great
owners.
place.
And they're saying if you intentionally hire illegals, you could face major consequences. It's a new proposal in the state legislature. And they are arguing that hiring illegals actually harms the American worker because they're taking Americans' jobs. And if you violate the law,
Like again, so the perception of that they're just there getting like the worst kind of money possible is not true. Like in some of these places, they are paid the minimum wage that other people in that area would get.
you lose your license. It allows the AG and the county attorneys it allows them to have the money to make sure the law is followed. And it also allows people who are negatively impacted by hiring illegals to sue.
So this is what the lawmakers are saying. They're saying having employers that are knowingly coming in and bringing in illegal aliens who they know should not be in our country, and they know they should not be hiring them. And they're intentionally doing that. There needs to be stiff penalties. 4 years from now, we might be sitting in a situation where we have a Democrat president that is going to completely undo Trump's border policy and bring.
People need to understand one of the reasons why people voted for Trump was not because that they liked him, but they saw how bad the border policy was with the last administration, letting in 10 to 20 million undocumented or illegal or whatever, right? That's 20 million people potentially who came in over a 4-year span, going into various neighborhoods and communities and kind of pushing those communities in a certain way.
Back Biden's border policy. You know, I think about that sometimes. I do feel sorry for some of the illegals that they were lied to from the Biden administration. They told them that they can come into this country.
He said, surge to the border. Why would anyone in any other country not take that opportunity? But that's not the way that this country works. We have entry points that you need to come in and do the proper paperwork so that we know who you are, and then we can go through the process of getting you here legally.
Country, and they can just get all these jobs, that it was okay for them to stay. But that's not true. We have laws on the books. And now what we have is a president saying, we're going to enforce those laws. He's not making any new laws. He's just enforcing every single thing that was on the books before.
It's
and as a result,
there.
you see the cartel is finally on the run. That hasn't happened in decades.
Right. MS-13 has been declared a terror organization.
Yep, Trinidad.
Finally.
TDA is same thing. And that allows
Hundreds of thousands of people die every year to the drug epidemic in this country. We know that, right? We know millions of families affected by the drug industry in this country that primarily comes over the southern border. So to me, it makes perfect sense if hundreds of thousands of Americans are dying that we need to crack down on the groups that are doing that.
allows us to go after them the way we'd go after Al Qaeda and ISIS, which is fascinating. It gets them on the run. And now we got some cooperation with the Mexican military.
Yep.
So I think right now you're seeing massive law enforcement. And I think fundamentally they'll be in 2 years, I think we'll be on this couch talking about work visas because we need workers in this country. We just need to organize the situation.
The president said he wants
taxes
that.
into it, yeah. And then, of course, keeping our first-round draft picks from Stanford and the University of Pennsylvania here rather than send them back to their countries.
We live in New York. There are a lot of people here on work visas, but they did it the right way.
Absolutely.
They came in. We have their paperwork. They are paying taxes, and there are a lot of families that need them to work for them, but they're doing it the right way. Now, illegal border.
This is so one of the issues that I see when it comes to like the two sides of this country, right? Is that there are people who want what they just said, right? We want you to come here and we want you to be able to work. We want you to be able to support your family and whatever, right? But then there's another side who misrepresents that and says that you just do not want illegal or immigrants at all, and that's just simply not the case. Most people, or the average person, would understand that this country is built off of immigrants, and that is why people voted again for the other administration, because they want people to come here in the right way.
Border crossings down 93% since Trump took office. The average daily crossing last February under Biden was about 3,000 a day. This month, a year later in February, it's 359 per day.
Angela, I will say this. I found it very troubling what's happening in Los Angeles, though. You see, Tom Homan's group, ICE, the U.S. Marshal Service, and all the ATF and all the Joint Task Force are targeting criminal aliens. These are people that are rapists, murderers. You have activists that are notifying them on bullhorns in these communities.
That's very important. So I live in Colorado at the moment, near Denver, and in Aurora, which is on the top end of Denver, there were Venezuelan gangs that took over apartment complexes, right? And these activists were going out, harassing the police while they were doing their raids and trying to notify the residents of those buildings that they were there, or tipping off the illegal immigrants who were living there. Mind you, too, that the police chief even came out and said that these people were interrupting their investigation and potentially getting people hurt. It's insane to me too, because if they even did a little bit of like research into who those people were, there were people who were kidnapped from that building and tortured, and even reports of people's nails being pulled out. So I think people do not want that to happen in the country, and it should not be happening in the country. Again, people voted to get that to stop. I think that's the most important thing out of anything here.
What are you thinking? There has to be some criminal punishment for this. This is not free speech to notify the criminals when the cops are coming. It's like a lookout. Are you now part of the enterprise? I expect Pam Bondi to go after some of these people. And she's already said the people that are doing the leaking, you got Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem saying they're going to get lie detector tests. Now, to prove who's the person that is out there leaking.
Lie detector tests don't really work, but I understand what he's trying to get at. They will investigate these people. Be sure of that.
Leaking this information to the criminals.
Right.
They're interfering with an investigation. And if you know someone's here illegally and you don't report it, that would be considered a crime, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you know that someone murdered their mom and you didn't report it, then you're complicit too.
That's right. We'll be following it.
All right, so I think we are finally on the right track here. We're actually doing things that will stop criminals, right, from doing their thing. And I think everyone should be on board. And if people want to get in the way of that, they can also go to jail. I think it's very simple. Thank you for watching my video. Stay tuned for whatever comes in the future.